Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. Gonna give it just a little bit just so we can kind of wait and make sure everybody's got joined. But my name's Eli Worrell. I'm gonna be the one leading you through. You'll notice that we also have a couple other folks here to kind of help answer some questions for you whenever you have them. So if you do have a question that comes up, please use that Q&A feature on the bottom part of your screen there. You can just click on that, enter in your question, and that'll help us kind of answer it more in order and make sure we get to everybody's questions as they come through. But yeah, no, we'll hang out here for just a couple minutes and then we'll get you going. All right, perfect. So it looks like people are still filtering in, but yeah, we'll start getting it going here. All right. So first thing you'll notice here as I get this pulled up, if you are using the app on your phone, this is going to look a little bit different. So we also have a web map version of our screen. So this is what I'm going to be showing you on just because it's the easiest to kind of go ahead and see everything that we have and make sure that you're able to view it. And it's a little bit easier to present on. So everything that we have, I'm going to be telling you if it is going to be on the phone app as well, where it's going to be at. So I'll give you those cues and then I'll kind of be able to show you a little bit better here on our web map. So, all right. So first thing you'll notice here is that when you open up the map, it is going to be kind of out a little bit further away and you're not going to have your exact location pulled up. You can see here on the web map version, you're able to zoom in using these pluses and minuses, as well as just kind of using the scroll on your mouse so that you can zoom in and out. If you're on your phone, you'll be able to use two fingers, push them together and push them apart, and then to zoom out, two fingers apart, push them together. But once you've kind of gone in and zoomed in and out of the map, you'll be able to start finding your location. And your location is going to show up as a blue dot. So you'll notice here that I am in the middle of our office in Missoula, Montana. So you'll see that this is a blue dot that pulls up. That is just our location. When you are looking around and kind of moving the map and doing a bunch of different things because you're wanting to get out and go scouting, it is something to know that you can always recenter yourself by using this button here on the right-hand corner of your screen that looks like a set of crosshairs. You're going to just click that one time. It's going to zoom you into your map or into your location so that you can go back to where you are. When you are on your phone, you'll notice here that if you double click this crosshair button, a blue flashlight is going to come out of your location button. That is just called our compass, and that is going to point directly at the top of your phone and kind of show you which area on the map that you're actually looking at. You'll notice as well that there's going to actually be a little compass right above that. If you click on that, it's going to take you to our compass mode, which will have a azimuth at the top and kind of let you have a little bit of a hash mark line there so that you can pan the map around and have a little bit better idea of what exactly you're looking for. All right. So once you've kind of gotten ahead, you found your location and you're ready to kind of start adding a little bit more to the map. You'll notice that on X, you're able to completely customize the view of your map. And you can do that by using our hunt map layers. So on the map layers here, you're going to notice that we have all all kinds of different layers as we go up. So first thing that we'll talk about is our state layers. That is going to be where you'll find public and private lands. So right now I'm in Montana, so I have Montana turned on. If you don't see your state right away or you don't see the state that you're trying to view, you'll want to go down to where it says turn on state here. So that'll just be on your phone or on your computer. You'll just keep scrolling down until you'll see a list of all 50 states. And once you've found the state that you're looking for, you'll just use this little icon over here to turn it on. It will disappear and go to the top. That's expected. It just means that it is turned on. So when you scroll back up, it'll be here and it'll be in green. And then you'll also have the state layers up here. So once you got those turned on, you can go in and you can help kind of view the different things that we have to offer. So first is our Montana private lands or whichever private lands that you're looking for. You'll notice that when you scroll in on the map, all of these red lines are going to start pulling up. That is going to tell you all the private property information. So if you click on a property, once you have that layer turned on, you're going to have, it's going to tell you which layer it's from, who the owner is, what their tax address is, and what county they're in, and also the area in acres. So that's all going to be available here to you with that private lands layer turned on. The next thing that we'll view, I guess before I leave on that subject, when you zoom in and out, you're going to notice that occasionally properties don't show up. Our properties are going to be zoom dependent. So if you don't see everything showing up right away, just keep zooming in and it's going to give you those names. That just helps us keep the map as clean as we can and also helps with load times. So if you don't see a property that you know is there and it's just kind of showing up and it's not quite giving you the name, just keep zooming in. Or again, you can just click on it and it's going to tell you all of that information. Next thing we'll go over is our government lands layer. So you'll see that the government lands are going to show up as these kind of green and yellow and blue overlays on your map. These are going to be just kind of pretty faint overlays. When you zoom in, it's not really noticeable, but you are going to see the ownership kind of pop up here. So if you'd like to turn that on and off, because some folks like to have it to where they can just see the satellite image so that you can zoom in a little bit tighter. Some folks want to know that ownership. So you can turn that on and off again by going to the hunt map layers, clicking on the state that you're in, and turning off that government lands. That's going to let you zoom in just a little bit tighter, get a little bit better idea of what's on the ground there. But again, you can turn that back on, and it's going to tell you which forest you're in or which land managing agency you're in. So if we're in the state of Montana, it's going to tell you, and which county as well, and what the acreage of that specific parcel is going to be. One thing that I do like to have turned off, especially when we're using this more in a business capacity, is the hunting districts. So in the hunting districts, you can turn those off, and that's just going to clean up your map a little bit because you're going to have these green lines showing up. It's also going to show up when you're in your query card. So I just like to have those turned off if I'm not using them. And you can see here where we do have a bunch of other layers. So if you are interested in some of like our possible access layers, that's going to be mostly logging companies and other large organizations that want to give access out, but it is still private property. So it's possibly accessible, but it's worth checking with that agency. So you'll see here that this is the Montana Checkerboard, and it's going to let you know, hey, if you want to access this, it's possible, but make sure that you check with the agency first. All right. So as we're going along with our layers here, the next ones I like to bring up are our current conditions. This is where you can get a really good idea of what you're going to be going into when you're heading out into the field. So right now it is still winter, supposedly here in Montana. We're not getting as much snow as I would hope, but it's still pretty good. So our active wildfires are thankfully not here yet, but this is going to be where in the middle of the summer when you are out and you're wanting to see, hey, is this area got a fire on it before I head out into the field? You'll go in, make sure the active wildfire is turned on. This is something that we update from NIFC once a day. So we have the most updated information that they have available. That's going to include the fire boundaries, the start dates, if it is contained. So that's going to give you a really good idea. And you'll see here that that's kind of what it'll look like. It'll show up with a fire icon, tell you the name, and it'll also give you the fire boundaries as we have them. So that one I like to have turned on pretty much always just because it doesn't get in my way very regularly. The next is going to be the smoke forecast. So if there are fires, like in Canada, if there's a fire, Montana will get the smoke. So this is just going to let you know, hey, am I going to be going into an area that's super smoky and possibly causing some issues with visibility. We also have drought data, air quality layers, and our precipitation radar. So that is just going to be a regular overlay here, so that you can just stay in one place. You don't have to go in between your different weather apps. You can just come in here, turn on your precipitation radar, make sure that it's going to be when you're heading out, that you're not heading out in the middle of a bad storm. Last thing I'll bring up in the current conditions layers is our cell coverage layer. This is going to give you the cell coverage map for the three major carriers. So that is going to be Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T. So you'll see here, Montana, the service is a little bit more spotty. So if I am going out into the field, I want to check this to make sure I have an offline map downloaded if it's expected that I will lose service. So when I'm looking through, I'm going to have this pull up, and this is going to be the darker spots are going to be the better service. That's going to be your 5G. And then as it gets lighter, it's just worse and worse service as you go along. Now you'll see that you do sometimes want to change this. This is the Verizon map. So in our layers, you're going to notice on the kind of right-hand corner of these individual things that it's going to have this kind of layer box, and then it'll have a number. That means that there's some other options available for that layer type. So if you want to view those, you just click where it says details, and that'll let you turn on the different apps. So one thing I will mention with ours, you do want to turn it on rather than having to turn something off. So you'll notice that I can't turn off the AT&T if I'm in this details. I just need to make sure I turn Verizon on. If I want to turn everything off, I just come up here and I can turn all of those off as well. But just know that you're not expected to turn it off and turn something else on. You can just turn the other thing on and it'll automatically switch. And that goes for all of our different layers. So I'll go ahead and get that turned off for right now. Um, and the next thing I'll bring up is our land and access layers. So if you are going out into the field doing any sort of search and rescue, looking to make sure that you're out there doing everything correctly. I like to look at this land and access to make sure I have the best route into where I'm going possible. So one thing that we'll include is the slope angle layer. So this gives you a color-coded visual to make sure that you're able to see what's the steepest and what's the best path that I can get into. So as it gets more red and into the kind of blues and violets, you're going to see that that is going to be the more steep areas. So if I was looking to climb up to a spot in here, I might want to come around this side and make sure I take the saddle up rather than trying to hike up the cliff on the front. So that just helps you with a little bit of planning. So when you're going through here, you can kind of get a really good idea of, hey, when you're out, this is going to be kind of the more flat path. This is where you might be able to sneak up and around to make sure that you're getting there as fast and efficiently as possible. Next thing is that you can also turn on a slope aspect layer. So if you are looking to collect any sort of data out in the field, you'll occasionally need to know that slope aspect. This gives you a very good visual. So you can see the north, south, east, and west facing slopes as you're looking at those mountain ranges. So that helps with any sort of fire prevention as well as just any data collection that you might be doing, just helps you make sure that you have all that information. And again, that's just going to the map layers, hitting land and access, and going to the slope angle. And then if I want to turn on slope aspect, again, I go to details and turn on that slope aspect. We also have section lines. So if you're kind of working off of a paper map as well, you can turn on these section boundaries and we will tell you as you zoom in which ones are which. So we'll have the overlays pop up so that you can have all of those section lines in there and then break it down even further. If you are looking to view any sort of grazing allotments, we also have those as a layer. So that is just going to show up as a kind of overlaid feature here so that you can see what grazing allotment you might be on and which managing agency will have that. All right. So And the more important version as we go along here is our roads, trails, and recs layer. So with that, you are going to be able to go in here, turn on trail slope, trail mileages, as to just make sure that you have access to all of the trails that you would like to. So the trail slope is going to give you a good idea of if I'm hiking along, what are going to be the steepest and, easiest paths that I can take. So in Montana, there's always going to be more than one trail to a spot. So you're going to want to make sure that you're taking the right one that's going to have the most efficient way of getting there. So occasionally that's going to be the short, steep path, or that might be kind of walking around and making sure you're saving your legs. Next will be kind of our motorized roads and trails layer. This layer is going to let you know a lot more about what you're going to be driving on, making sure you're taking the right vehicle, making sure you're getting there, again, as efficiently as possible. So when you have this layer turned on, it is going to overlay some of these dirt roads in purple. You'll notice here that I'm going to then be able to click on this road and know a lot more about it. So when I click on Gold Creek Road, I can go in, I can see what the name of the road is going to be. I know the identifier for it, and I can see what it's going to be accessible by. So this one is for overland vehicles, high clearance 4x4s, side-by-sides, ATVs, and dirt bikes. So pretty much anything that you can drive off on a dirt road will be able to travel this. Now, that is also going to tell you the surface type. So this is natural, meaning that's just it's just a dirt road rather than a gravel road or any sort of pavement, and it's going to be open all year. So if you do want to know if there's an open and close date for the road that you're going on, you can click on these and it'll tell you, hey, this one's only open from May to November rather than all year round. So I can travel this one all year. This one I can only travel in the summer and the fall. And it'll also tell you the managing agency so that if there are any questions or any discrepancies, that's the person to reach out to. Make sure we have all the right information, make sure you're getting everything that you need. When you are looking at these, there are also trails available. So that is going to be the little bit harder to get to routes, but they are still open. So when you're looking along, these smooth purple lines are going to be more of those regular kind of natural surface types. And then when you get to these hash marked purple lines, that's going to be more of your trails. And that's where it's really important to pay attention. Hey, what's it going to be accessible by? And obviously, there's going to be some ground proofing needed, but this is going to give you a better idea. This one, you're looking at high clearance 4x4s and side by side. So I'm probably not going to be taking my Toyota up there. I'm probably going to want to make sure I bring a side by side with me just to make sure I'm traveling that road as efficiently as possible. Um, so if you are looking at it again, that is just these kind of purple with the white hash mark lines as they go up. All right. And as we're kind of coming to the end of our layer session, I'll go quickly over the trees, crops, and soil. So you're going to notice here, this isn't for everybody, but this is a layer that you can turn on. So if you're wanting to get a good idea of, hey, am I going into a spot that is going to be kind of mucky and in those kind of wetland areas, I can turn on my wetlands layer and get a good sense of like, hey, if I'm going to be traveling through here, I might want to have some good boots on or make sure that I might even avoid it because that is going to be more of a wetland area that I'm going to be walking into. It's going to be a little more boggy. Um, and then we also have our soil capability. So you'll notice when you turn that on, it's going to give you a lot of different colors here. But the soil capability, when you come down, it is going to tell you what soil classification you're on, what the symbol is, and what the non-irrigated capability class is. So this is not obviously not prime farmland because it's up in the middle of the mountains, but we also have some decent stuff around so that you can get a good idea of what that's going to be. And again, that's just hunt map layers down to trees, crops, and soil capability. The rest of these are going to be more kind of hunting based, but if you do want, there are some historic wildfire layers as well as some timber cuts. So you can get a good sense of what might be changed on the landscape as you're looking in there. So you'll see these as kind of these big overlays here, so I can click on it, see when that fire burned, what the area was on it, and so you'll see that this is what the fire was named, how much acreage did it cover, and when did it end, so that you have a good sense of that. All right. And that's going to be the same thing with the timber cuts, except for it's just going to tell you when that last was cut there. All right. So as we're going along, most of what Onyx is incredibly good at is marking up the land. So you'll notice here that we have a suite of tools that'll let you, once you have the map exactly how you want to be able to view it, you have everything on there, you're going to want to start putting some markups down. We have a whole suite of tools to help you do that. First is going to be our waypoints. This is our most utilized tool. And you're going to notice that there are three different ways that you can add a waypoint. Um, First is going to be if you go to the tools section. So if you're on your phone, the app on your phone, that's going to be bottom center part of the screen, right where it says tools. You'll click on that. It'll have add waypoint there. When you click it, it is just going to add a waypoint right in the center part of your screen. And if you're on your phone, you can just click anywhere you want to go and that'll move that waypoint. If you're on your computer, you can just drag it along. You can also zoom in and get as close as you want so that you can mark exactly what you want to look at. So if I had a spot I needed to get to up in the mountains, I can go add waypoint, drag that up there, and it'll be right where I want. You'll notice here that you can then change the waypoint name. You can also change the waypoint type. So with the waypoint type, that is going to give you any sort of kind of different indicators for what that waypoint might be. Big ones that we see used often are going to be gate, um, junction, parking, point of interest. Um, Occasionally we have pinch point used, any sort of photos used. And then we also have our hazard. So we'll go ahead and mark it down with the hazard here to start. From there, you can go ahead and change the color as well. And then you can also add any notes that you need to this waypoint. So if I was using this as a example, it would be, down. So I can mark that waypoint on there. And then if I'm out there, I can add any photos I need to it. And I can also add it to folders from here. I would highly recommend naming waypoints as well as changing the type and the color because it's just going to make it easier to filter and search for later. So if you have 500 waypoints, this is just going to help you narrow it down so that you're not looking at this and asking yourself, hey, I was in this area before. Like, is this the current waypoint or is this an older waypoint? So we'll do this one as a test waypoint one. The other ways that you can add waypoints here, one, you can just click on the map. It'll pull up and it'll have an add waypoint button on the bottom. That'll be both on your phone and on the computer. And then if you are on your phone, you'll notice that if you click that tools button, it is going to have a mark my location. That's going to be the fastest and the most accurate way to mark an exact spot because it is going to mark a waypoint right where you're standing. So if I'm out there and I need to know exactly where something is, so if there's, a piece of evidence or if I'm on a search and rescue and I find something that I need to know exactly where it is and be able to share that out later, I use that mark my location button. That just marks a waypoint right where I am, and then I can kind of move on and keep moving and keep going. So again, that's just tools and then mark my location. If you want to just add a waypoint right from a query that you're on, you just tap the map, hit add waypoint, and it'll let you use the same waypoint name, type, and color, add any notes and photos. We find that photos are very, very handy when you're wanting to come back to a place or if you're wanting to describe something better to folks when you get back to the office. So you can add those photos, directly from your phone, or you can go ahead and take a photo on your phone as well. I recommend taking the photo first and then adding adding that to a waypoint, because if you do delete that waypoint later on and you just took it directly from the waypoint, it will delete with the waypoint. It's not going to save directly to your phone. So I recommend taking the photo first and then adding it to that waypoint later on. Once you got a couple of waypoints done and saved, we'll do this as test waypoint 2. So we have a location that we need to get to. We have a couple of different spots to check out. We then need to know, hey, what kind of area am I looking at? Like, what's our expected search going to be? So that you can do that by clicking our area shape tool. So if you're on the phone, it's going to be tools and then area shape. If you're on your computer, that is just up here and that is just going to be that area shape option. You'll see that it'll pull up, and the way you do that is just tap in the map a few times and it is just going to keep drawing a polygon for you. So you can get this polygon as big or as little as you want. It is going to tell you the distance in between points as well as the total acreage in the center. And with this, you can change the highlight color as well as the color for the outside lines so that you can make it as viewable underneath as you want, or as opaque as you would like as well. So I might change the color here. So I'm going to keep it pretty consistent. I'm going to have blue on the outside, red on the inside, so that I know, hey, this is going to be my search area. You can also change the weights on these. So you can make this as visible or as, as less visible as you would like it to be. You can still add notes to this. You can still add it to folders. So I have my area shape drawn. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I have this up here. I know, hey, this is going to be what I want to view. I might also need to know some distances in between. So that's by using our line distance tool. Some people also use this to box stuff off so that they don't have any sort of coverage in the center. So if I just go down to tools and then line distance, I can get an exact distance in between. And this is going to be a straight line distance as you're looking at it. So when you're going along, you can add as many lines as you would like, or you can do as few. So if I need to know how far away my waypoint might be from the main road, I can go ahead and drop a line and see how far I'm looking at if I want to do a straight line directly to that waypoint from the trailhead. So we're looking at about a mile there. I can go ahead and name this line. That's line 1. Change the color here, and I'm going to make it a little bit less visible. All right, and you'll notice, so if I'm going along here and I save a line, I can get a actual elevation profile. So I can know, hey, I'm going to be straight lining it up here. I'm just going to try to get there as fast as I can. This is going to be the elevation that I'm going to be looking at. So it's going to be a pretty tough road, but it might be the fastest way to get somewhere. So if I want to get a good idea of like, hey, what am I going to be walking through? I use that line distance tool so I have a pretty good sense. All right, once we kind of got our line, so we got how we're going to get there once we get to the trailhead. So now I need to figure out how am I going to get to the trailhead. So that's by using our route builder. And that's, if you're on your phone, go to tools and it'll be route builder. If you're on your computer, it's just this far left button, that one that looks like a little S there. I'm going to start it from my location here, but you can start it from wherever you would like. So you'll see that once I click a spot, it is going to draw along with the road that I have. And that's because I have the Snap To feature turned on. We also have a point draw feature, so if there's not a road that's anywhere close, I can use this point draw so I can kind of override it and still get my route while I'm getting there. So as I'm using the Snap To, I'm going to go ahead and start it from my spot. I'm just going to draw it up because I know that this road's going to be good to get out there. So I'm going to go along Brook Street, cross over the bridge, and I'm going to get myself out. So you'll see that it'll kind of jump around depending on where you're going. So if I want to make sure that I'm taking a certain exact road, I might want to add some points as I'm going along. So you'll see that if I add a point here, it's just going to let me kind of have a better, more control over my actual route as I'm going along. So the more points you drop, the more control you're going to have. If you're not too worried as you're getting out there, you can just kind of keep going. Um, but I'm going to have a little bit more control. So if I zoom out here, I can see, oh, all right, I might be a little bit off where I originally wanted. Keep going along here and we'll be all the way out. So you'll notice when I'm out here, I can go along and eventually I'm going to get to a spot where I'm going to actually have to start going onto a trail. So I am on the road all the way up to here, and then I can keep drawing my route on the trails as I'm going along. So it's going to keep following me and keep taking the trails. What's nice is when you get into a set of dirt roads or a set of trails that are a little bit more kind of pushed together like this, where there's a lot of different routes, I can actually highlight which one I want to take so that I have it good. Um, so I'm going to draw my route all the way up here. I'm going to get that saved. So we have our way out to there. We also have a couple of different options for straight lining it. We know our exact location. So we've built our plan to get out there and make sure that we can help or get to our place of work. Once I have this all onto the map, I want to get it into a place that I can actually share it out and make it more available to the rest of my team. Best way that you can do that is by going to the My Content and creating a folder. So that's just My Content, and then you're going to want to hit New Folder. Once I get my folder created here, it's going to show up under my test folder here. I just click that, and then I'm going to click Add Content. There's a couple of different ways that you can add content to a folder. Best one I like to use is I like to just click on it while I'm looking at the map, just so I make sure I get everything that I have on here. So that's one way. The other way is going to be you can actually go through and select it from a list. Now, I don't have a lot of other waypoints added, but I'm going to go ahead and add a couple extra tests here. So we can view those. So you'll notice that I'm going to have multiple waypoints along, and I want to make sure that I'm not including these in my list that I'm searching for. So when I click on my test folder, I'm going to hit add content again, and I'm going to select this filter list as map moves. That is going to filter the actual list of waypoints and all of my content that I have to what is on my screen. Now, if you are looking to add something that's not on your screen right away, make sure this is turned off so that you can search through all of your waypoints. But if you know the area that you're in, make sure that's turned on, and it's going to let you just select these from a list here. So we have a couple of different ways of adding that content. So once I get everything added to the folder, I then want to make sure it gets out to the rest of my team so they have all of the same information. So I can do that by hitting share. And you'll want to make sure that you add in your name. Otherwise, it's not going to let you share. One thing to make sure is you're adding your name on this stretch rather than the person that you're sharing it to. So if it is asking you for your name, make sure you enter it in for your information, not for somebody else's. Once we get that, you're going to see here that it's going to have a view only and a contribute option. The differences are a view only, nobody's going to be able to add any content to this folder. They are only going to have the content that you shared out with them rather than having any other content that they might have. They wouldn't be able to add anything to it. They are only going to be able to see what you're sharing out. If I want them to be able to add content to the map, I want to make sure that this contribute feature is turned on. When I have the contribute feature turned on, it is going to let anybody that has access to this folder, it'll give them the ability to add content to it. It is not going to give them the ability to change any content that I have added. So if I shared out a folder with Rory, it has got the contribute feature turned on. He's not going to be able to adjust my content but he will be able to add more content to the map or to that folder itself. Now, when I am looking to share this out initially, with that contribute folder feature turned on, I do still need to share out an initial link. You can share that through any messaging service that you would like. That includes text messages, emails. If you're in an office environment, you can share it out via Slack, Google, any sort of Teams messaging, any way you would like to. Once they have that link that you have shared out, they just need to open it, click on the link. It's going to open up the app automatically, and it's going to add all of that content to it. So there's nothing else needed. Once they have that link there, they just need to click on it. All of that content is going to pull up and copy over. Now, when I do have a waypoint shared out, it is going to let me actually manage who has access to it as well. So you can go in and you can change that at any time. So you can remove access from content. You can add more people to it. And you can also manage who does and doesn't have access later on. So you're not set in after you get that shared out initially. Take a quick break here, get a quick drink. With the contribute feature, that content is once anybody adds any content to that folder with the contribute feature turned on, it's going to share out automatically with everybody else that has access to the folder. So if there's 10 folks that have access to this test folder that I have here, if one of those 10 folks adds a waypoint or adds a line, it's going to share out automatically without the need of sharing another link. So that kind of reduces a couple extra clicks for you, and it also lets you share a big group of content all at once. So with that contribute feature turned on, the minute somebody has cell service and they've added content to it, it's going to show up on my map. So that is the nice thing about it. Now, if you are up here and say we kind of accomplished this mission, and I want to make sure I retain the data, but I don't necessarily want it on my map right away, it's going to give me the option to hide all of the content on here. Or if I would also like, I can also only have my content on this folder that show up. So since I didn't get the route added, that is going to tell you here, hey, I only have this folder showing, or I only have the content, or I have everything in this folder hidden. All right. So the next thing, if we are going out into this kind of area of operations here, I am going to want to make sure I have an offline map downloaded. And again, to see if I might need an offline map, I can go into my layers, go into current conditions, and turn on my cell coverage layer. So in this spot, I might not necessarily need it, but you're going to see here that it is getting a little bit worse the further out I get. So I'm going to not risk it, and I'm going to make sure that I turn on an offline map. To download an offline map, you just need to click where it says offline maps. If you're on your phone, it's going to be the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And on the computer, it's just this kind of left side. I can just select new offline map. And you're going to see here that it's going to have this red box that pulls up. With that red box, I can zoom out, make it a little bit bigger, or I can zoom in, make it a little bit smaller, but everything inside of this red box is what I'm going to be downloading. Now, what that download means is that it's going to have all of the layers that we have offered, satellite imagery that we have offered. You're going to be able to adjust those while you're out in the field. However, content isn't tied to an offline map. So you don't have to download a map with the content to share it across. The waypoints, tracks, routes are going to be separate from the offline map, and those will, any sort of content that I add to the map, so any waypoint, any route, any track, that is going to always show up regardless of if I have cell service or not. So those are completely separate from our offline maps. When we're talking offline maps, it's really just the satellite imagery, any of our layers that we have, as well as the ability to zoom in and out and view your location on the map itself. With offline maps, you are also going to be able to view your location, so your blue dot is also going to show up on those. So once I get a map kind of pulled up, I'll be able to name it. So we'll just do this test one. And you're going to see that it's going to have a variety of different imagery details. So I typically have the medium map, medium resolution. That lets me zoom in to about 500 feet. And if I need to go much further than that, I need to make sure I have a high resolution map downloaded. The big differences that you're going to see is between the low, medium, and high, that you're not going to be able to zoom in on that satellite imagery as close. And also, you're going to be able to, the higher quality of the image, the smaller the actual map that you're going to be able to download will be. So if I have a high quality image on, I'm only going to be able to get about a 10 by 10 versus if I have a low, I can get about 100 square miles. So again, I typically have that medium resolution turned on because I can get about a 30-mile map, and it's going to let me zoom in pretty tight. So I can save that. Once you have it saved, you're going to want to make sure that every device that you're going to be utilizing while you're out in the field has that offline map saved on it. So it is going to translate over the boundaries. So if you're on, a computer, you can download the boundaries. If you're on your phone and your tablet, you're just going to go into where it says offline maps. It's going to have a downward facing arrow here. All you need to do is click that downward facing arrow, and that's going to download it on each device. The reason for that is to view stuff offline, it actually needs to download to the device itself rather than to kind of our overall system. So those don't translate over. If you have it downloaded on your phone, it's not necessarily going to be downloaded on your tablet. So you're going to want to make sure you go in, everything's good, has a green check mark on it, and that you're all set to go that way. You'll notice that too, once you have a bunch of offline maps downloaded, it's going to show up and it's going to ask you to update. Those updates are going to include any sort of changes we've made to the map. So that can be as small as a single landowner change, or, it can be a little bit larger, but typically those are going to be smaller updates. You're going to want to update those as frequently as you can, but I would say that it's not necessary to update every time before you go out. So if you update once a month, that's about what I do. Some folks like to do it once a week, but don't feel like you need to update them every single time before you go out. They are still going to work regardless of if you update those or not. It's just going to make sure that you have the best information possible. So just update those as frequently as you can, but don't feel the pressure to update them every single time. All right. So we got our offline map downloaded. We got our route in there on here, and we're looking pretty good. So you'll notice here that there's a few other options that we have, that'll let you kind of get a pretty good sense of the map itself. So if I'm still in my kind of planning phase here, I can go ahead and I can change the different imagery types. So you'll see mine says SAT2D on the right side of my screen. It might say topo, it might say, 3D, but anything that's going to have this kind of map feature on it, you're going to click that and it's going to let you update it. So we have a bunch of different imagery types now. When I'm looking at it, I can turn on 2D or 3D maps. So with our 3D maps, we have a bunch of cool features with those now. But you'll see that it'll kind of tilt the map and you're going to have a really good sense of what you might be going into. So if I'm looking at my route here and I'm like, oh, I drew this line, I didn't realize I was going to be going into a gully and all the way back out. I can get a decent sense of that just by drawing a line, but I didn't really have a good visual. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's not the right idea. Maybe I actually do want to take this route all the way up and around because that's going to let me just drop in right on top of them. So again, you can turn that on by going to SAT2D and then just turning on our 3D maps. Now our 3D maps work very, very well when you're up in kind of the more high country. But occasionally, if I am going to be in a little bit more of a valley type area, it's not going to be as great about showing me all of the different terrain that I can have access to in here. So I can see that there's a little bit of changes, but maybe it's not as drastic as I think it might be when I get out into the field. The way we've kind of solved that problem for more flat country is going to be this 3D elevation exaggeration. So when I turn this up, you're going to see that my map's going to move around a little bit, but it's just going to take everything on that 3D and just make it a little bit sharper. So I did not realize as I was looking through here, hey, this is actually pretty good sized hill. And there's actually some pretty good crevices in there. So this lets me really get a better sense of, hey, if I'm in more flat country, it's actually got a lot of folds in it. And it's going to be a little bit harder to walk than I was originally thinking, just looking at our regular 3D imagery. I come from the middle of Wyoming where it seems incredibly flat, but when you're looking through, there's tons of different folds, a lot of little hills, and this 3D elevation exaggeration. It is just a game changer for being down there. It lets you really get a good sense of, hey, when I'm walking through, it might not look like the craziest steep area, but it's actually going to be kind of a bit more of a jaunt than I wanted. So gives you a lot better planning and information there. You'll notice too that we wanted to make sure that we have as up-to-date information as we can. So we have a few different things here. These are a little more recent additions to Onyx. So we have our recent imagery. Now, what I love about recent imagery is it's going to be a 2-week old image that you can scroll back in time with. It is not as high quality of an image, so I'm not going to be able to zoom in quite as tight, but you can see here, I can get a pretty dang good sense of what changes are being made in the country that I'm looking to get into. So if I have a spot I need to be working in that's up here in the mountains or out anywhere that I want to see, hey, is there still snow on the ground or is there still, if it's going to be very muddy, like there's going to be a major change, there's a landslide, whatever that might have happened, I can go through and I can scroll back and see what all has changed in there. So I like to use it for snow on roads to make sure that I'm actually able to get up into here. So you can see when I scrolled back, there was quite a bit of snow here back in December. But as we've gone along, it's kind of receded. We just had a big snowstorm here. So I can see that it actually kind of went away and it came back. So I might have been able to get into there the last couple weeks. But as I'm getting forward here, it's just a little bit snowier and I might not be able to get in there with just a truck. So you can turn that on and off by going to the imagery types and turning on that recent imagery. One feature that I have really liked that we've added this year is going to be our LiDAR imagery. Now, when I turn on my topo view, that is going to give me all the different topo lines here. It's going to be about 50 foot, depending on your area, topo lines, but we get a little bit tighter when we get a little bit further away, depending, but typically that's around that 50-foot mark. But you'll notice here that when I have my LiDAR turned off, it just doesn't have the shading. So I don't have quite the sense if I'm not necessarily as used to reading topo maps, I might not have quite the sense of what I might be getting into here. So when I go through, I hit that LiDAR turned on, it's going to highlight everything here for me. So what I really love is I can start seeing where those intermittent stream kind of lines are going to be. So I can see that there's actually a little bit of an indent here. So that's probably a pretty good stream most of the year. But it might not be flowing all the time, but it's going to be something to think about as I'm looking to get any sort of equipment across there, or if it's just kind of a planning phase, I can see that's likely going to be a creek bottom. I can also go along and I can see where these little spires are going to be, where little things that might kind of start affecting my work as I'm going through are going to be located. So you can use this LiDAR imagery with our 3D as well. So you can use a combination of both. So if you're going along here, I'll show you a little bit more dramatic example. So if I'm going along and I want to see what this little creek bottom might look like, I can see, hey, there's an actual kind of cliff edge here, or this is going to be pretty mellow as I hike up. There's going to be a stream bottom on the bot, like in here. And I can really see all of those different things very well highlighted. And it is also going to show you that kind of underneath the trees idea. So this stuff, when I have satellite turned on, so right here, you can see pretty plainly that there's going to be a cliff. When I turn on the satellite, it's going to be mostly covered up by trees. You can get a pretty good sense that, hey, that's going to be decently steep, but when I turn this on, it's like, oh, that is mostly rock underneath there. So it's kind of covered up by that tree canopy, but that is going to be something I want to plan my initial ascent right here because I'm going to need ropes rather than just walking from back here. So it just gives you a better sense that you're not wasting your time and you're not getting into a situation that's going to be hazardous to that work location. And all of these are going to be able to turn on and off while you're offline, as long as you have that offline map downloaded. So you can still adjust the different imagery types. You can still adjust all of the layers. Um, you are just going to need to make sure that offline map is downloaded. All right, we're kind of getting to it here, but I'm going to cover just a last couple of things. One of those is going to be that we have our terrain X available. This is going to be a terrain analysis tool that is going to let you filter through and kind of have a good sense of different um, kind of slope angles, slope aspects, what elevation band I might be looking at. It's just going to help highlight that. So if I know that I don't want to be hiking anything that is over 30-degree slopes, I can narrow that down. I know that the area that this person's going to be is probably not going to be in the shade, so I might have my south-facing slope aspects are going to be. And then if I know that they are probably not going to be hiking above 12,000 feet, I can start narrowing that down as well. Just kind of narrowing down these little areas of operation for yourself, making sure that you have the best idea possible of, for search and rescue operations, this is pretty important. But we've seen it in a variety of different occupations as well. All right. We also have our weather layers. So when I'm going along, I can click our weather feature. This is going to be on the top right-hand corner of your screen if you're looking on the app. But we have our current weather conditions all the way down to the sunrise sunset table. We have the hourly forecast with the wind, as well as any sort of precipitation radar. So if I'm out on a fire, I can know, hey, I can expect a wind change around, 3 o'clock, which is pretty expected around Montana, but you can see here where it's just going to be kind of an increase as well as a little bit of a temperature fluctuation, and I'm going to be seeing some more clouds. So that's just going to give you a good idea just while you're in the app. And it is also going to be hyper local. So you'll notice as I'm kind of filtering through here, it's just going to point exactly where I'm at on the map. So when I'm a little bit further away, going to be a little bit warmer where I'm down in the bottoms here versus if I'm way up in the mountains. So I can have a good sense of where I'm going into, what the weather is going to be, and that kind of hyper local idea. All right. One thing that I do like to point out is that with waypoints, you do have a couple of other options there. First is going to be that you can add a wind direction directly to a waypoint. So mostly I like to show current wind, but if you are out on a fire or if you're out doing any sort of other work where you need to know which direction it's blowing so that you can make sure that you're on the other side of it, I like to have that current wind showing up. Um, you can also see that once you apply it, it's always going to be up there. It's not very invasive, but I can see it from a long ways off, so I can have a sense of, all right, the wind's going to be blowing about one up there. And if I'm also wanting to see over here, I can add a waypoint, add my wind direction to it, and I can see if it's going to be any different. So I got a southwest face or southwest blowing wind here and kind of a straight west wind blowing here. So that's just going to let you kind of see the variations when you're on those different aspects and making sure that you have the most information while you're out there. Last thing I'll kind of go over is our waypoint radius. So you can see here that I can add a full circle around a waypoint. I want to know everything that's within 1 mile of here, and it's just going to pull that up and give you a little quick location so I can have everything within a mile of my waypoint measured out. I can turn these both on and off as I would like to. It's going to retain that kind of my preferences for what I want to have on there, but I'm going to be able to turn those off so it's not making my map too busy. Last thing I'll kind of go over is a few settings that I like to have turned on. So you can see that if you go down to the My Account and settings, or if you go to the three horizontal lines, top left-hand corner of the screen, if you're on the app, there's going to be a lot of different ideas in here. So you can first change what coordinates you're going to show up as. So ours will default to decimal, but if you need to change it to anything else, you can change that to UTM, DMS. So you can change those around as you would like to. You can also change it between imperial and metric for distances. The one that I would recommend everybody turn on is our show custom waypoint names. So you can see here that I have a test waypoint 1. This can also be labeled as start location or, hey, this like end location or last known location, anything that you would want to have in there. And that's going to show up on your map proper so that you don't have to go through and search everything. You can just have it pulled up and you can know which waypoint that is and what you're looking at. So again, that's just under settings and then show custom waypoint names. You can also get to any of our help centers here. So that's just down on the FAQs so that you can learn a little bit more about the app as well. And if you have any other questions as you're going through, that's going to give you a good idea. All right. Gone through quite a bit of content here, and we're kind of getting towards the end. So I don't know, Rory, was there any
No questions.
no good questions?
Hasn't been any that I've seen, but
Okay.
ask them, let's put them in.
Yep. So if anybody does have any questions, anything they'd like me to cover a little bit more, please drop that in the Q&A and I'll try to get there. So we'll give that a few minutes here, and then once we're done, we'll let everybody get on their way. While we're waiting for those questions, one thing I will tell you, we do have a search feature available. What this is nice for is if you get a call and it's going to have, and they give you a set of coordinates, I'm just going to steal some here. You can actually go through and you can search that. So you can search for coordinates this way. So you can just enter in your lat long and have it pull up. It'll pull up as a little eye icon. And if you want to search a landowner, so we will do 6. Let's see. That'll pull you right into that. Now, when you are doing a landowner search, it's best to be as accurate as you can be. So if you know the full name or the full LLC, make sure you enter that in, and that's just going to help your search results. But you'll notice that that is kind of the difference between location and private land searches. So if I want to find a landowner, I go to the private land. But if I just want to find a set of coordinates, I want to make sure I'm on location. If you enter in coordinates while you have private land selected, it's not going to show up and vice versa. So just making sure that you're keeping an eye on that. All right.
That's for the beta admin console,
Yeah.
a beta view of the admin console.
Yeah. 1 second here, Ryan. I will get that pulled up for you. And thanks for joining, Ryan. I know we've been talking the last couple of days, so it's nice to hear from you. All right. Let me know if you can see this, Rory. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're going to see here, this is going to be coming out in the next, hopefully very soon. Yeah. We're getting to the very final stages of getting this released. So I'll kind of run you through a brief overview, but we're going to have a lot more communications about this as we get it rolled out. So you guys are going to be the first ones to get a good eye of this. So when we're looking along, this is going to be the admin console that you're going to be able to log into. You're going to notice that under people is going to have everybody that I have added to my account listed. It's also going to have their role. So what all of these are going to mean is the email is just going to be the person that's added. The role is going to determine their access to the admin console. So if they are listed as a owner, they're going to have the full ability to purchase more memberships. They're going to be able to add and remove people. Versus if I was just listed as a member, I wouldn't be able to do any of that. So I would be able to see the admin console, see who else is added, but I'm not going to be able to add or remove anybody. I'm not going to be able to make any purchases. You can adjust that as the owner only. So I can make somebody an admin. So if they aren't necessarily the owners of the account, they can still go in and adjust and add and remove anybody. You're going to notice here that we do have different statuses. So we have active, pending, and archived. What this means is that we have sent them an invite, and if they are active, they've opened the invite and they've accepted it. If they are under pending, we've sent the invite and they haven't opened it yet. And if they are archived, it means that I have removed access to our admin console for that employee. You'll notice here as well that we have licenses. Now, nobody has been assigned a license here. So if I go in, I can then assign these as I would like to. So you'll have the ability to assign either a hunt, backcountry, or off-road license. And all you have to do is go into licenses, hit activate, and that'll activate each specific app. Now, they aren't going to, every app is going to be its own license. So if you have purchased 10 licenses for 10 individuals, make sure that you're only assigning one app to those 10 individuals. If you would like everybody to have all three apps, that would be 3 licenses per person. So you would need 30 licenses total. Now, you'll be able to add members just by adding an email address. So if you are just adding an individual or a couple of individuals, I'd recommend going through this. If you have about 100 different folks, you can upload a CSV as well. Make sure on that CSV you only have the email addresses, and you can have them listed out as per for 100 individuals at a time. So if you have 200 individuals, you want to have 2 CSVs set up because it's only going to let you upload the one at a time. But it can upload up to 100. So right now you can see that we have 12 seats. So I wouldn't be up at that max, but I can still go through and upload that. From there, you can assign a license right away by clicking the Hunt Elite, Backcountry, or Off-Road. And then I can also see who I still have pending to make sure that I'm not adding those folks twice. So I would want to make sure that I look through, hey, Lexi's still pending versus if I was going to add Eli. I can still go through and I can filter these by role status and license type. So I can put all of my archived and pending at the bottom and only show my active or vice versa. Under billing, you're going to see here that we have you have a credit card, you have the updated information and how much you're going to be charged. Once you do go through and we do go to update it, you're going to be able to change the quantities as you go along. You'll see here that even though it's in the middle of my subscription, it's still going to show up as the per year price. Now, if I have 12 and I'm adding one more, it's going to show up as that total. When I hit continue, it's going to give me the prorated price and which card is going to be charged to. So once you have that and you've added them, you are then able to go along and add a new member as you go. Here we also have team information available. So it's going to let you select which category you fall into and what your team name is going to be. So right now we are a test.org, but I can adjust that as I need. And then if you do have any questions as we get along, it's going to have a phone number that reaches directly to me, as well as our email and our support hours. So that is just going to be the availability for a phone call here. If it's outside of that, please send us an email and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. But yeah, great question. We want to make sure that this is getting out there and we're getting really close. It's been a long time coming. We're very excited. Everybody's done such a great job getting this out and ready. So hopefully we'll have that out to you guys here in about a week. But yeah, any other good questions? Oh, so I do see one about routes here. Um, so with our route feature, there's not going to be a setting that'll tell you like how far off route you're going to be, but we do have turn-by-turn directions in there. So if you have a waypoint, you can click on that, hit driving directions and use the Onyx Maps one. That'll give you turn-by-turn directions inside of the app. That way you're making sure you're staying on your correct route. And I will actually have our contact info up right now. Good point. So this is going to have my email. That's going to be the fastest way to get a hold of me typically. But that is going to be, if you're wanting to talk to our sales team, that's the Onyx for Business. If you need any sort of support for right now, so if you need to add or remove anybody at this time, please send it over to the business.support@onyxmaps.com. And that'll get you directly to me and I get back to everybody as fast as I can. So, yeah. Well, all right. Well, thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. I appreciate everybody being here. Is there any last minute questions that I'm missing here, Rory?
No, you covered them all.
All righty. Well, thanks again, guys. And again, we are super excited to get that admin console out. So if you are a member, you are going to be getting some more communication about that here soon. And if not, once you sign up, hopefully we'll have that out and available. Make sure we get you guys going. Yeah, thanks again for joining. And if you have any questions, please send it over to business.support@onyxmaps.com. I'd love to hear from you. Happy to get back to you as quick as I can. All right. Thanks, everybody.